In fact, I only killed 3 senior immortals who abused me along with their majestic beings. Nothing else. They also kept forcing me to say that I was acting murderously under my master's commands, which was not the truth. I was only there to hunt. I refused to admit the accusations, so they tortured me. Gu's Zygius' eyes darkened. Gently, she patted its shells to comfort it. I understand the whole situation now. You may rest. The mussel thought that she was going to give it a good scolding, but she did not. Instead, she remained gentle on it. Master, are you not mad at me? The mussel asked while trembling in fear. Gu Shijio gave it a half smile and said, What is there to be mad about? Should I be mad at you because of your wild, violent temper as a result of some wicked spell? Is it about the 3 majestic beings that came to provoke you first? Mussel, I have told you not to kill any majestic beings of level 7 and above, but it does not mean that I do not allow you to kill them when you are clearly defending yourself. Astonished, the mussel finally realized that the whole scenario was rather strange when the killing spree happened. It could barely control its violent temper. After being greeted by the 3 senior immortals with a stream of abuse, it could no longer hold itself back. It could not help but wonder how Gu Shijio found out that it was poisoned and under siege. Gu Shijio gave it a tight smile. Silly, I have checked on the signs that you left behind at the place where you encountered with the 3 senior immortals. Experienced, she could roughly get a picture of how the fight went on based solely on the signs and traces. Also, she could tell that there was an ambush. Every move that the 3 senior immortals aimed at the mussel was lethal. Every single strike was deadly. If a mussel had not swallowed them, it would be dead. Even without the wicked spell, the mussel would still have to give it all in the fight, without letting the enemies off lightly. She told the mussel not to kill the innocent, not that it was not allowed to defend itself. Mussel, I will always return kindness tenfold. Same goes for humiliation. This is my principle of life. Have you forgotten about it? The mussel's eyes opened widely in admiration. It repeatedly nodded in approval. Good. You may take a rest now. I shall take over from here and get revenge on your behalf. Gu Shijio reassured the mussel. The mussel's blood burned with righteous ardor. It nodded eagerly in response. Gu Shijio finally turned to look at Tai Lu and the other 3 men. It is your turn now, all 4 of you. Her voice was calm, but the look in her eyes was lethal. You have to pay the price for the evil plan that you have plotted against me. All 4 of them were utterly shocked. Tai Zheng responded quickly. Don't you try to make slanderous accusations against us. You are the one who supports the malign nature of the monstrous mussel. We were only acting under orders. How is that a plot? If you had not shown up, we would never know that you were the master of the mussel. Acting under orders? If those were really your orders, why didn't you send it back to the 9th heaven for a proper joint hearing? Why did you come here to torture it privately without a legal trial? About that, we are here because we have other matters to attend to. We have to stay for 2 days, so we might as well interrogate the mussel here to ease the Emperor's mind about the massacre. How is it an interrogation when everything was scripted, even with the involvement of brutal torments? We have to. It has killed so many innocent, majestic beings, messing the order of the Saha world. It behaves so violently. There is absolutely no wrong with the use of torture. Gu Shijio gave them a threatening look. You have been saying that it is the killer of the majestic beings. Where's the proof? We saw it fighting against 3 majestic beings with our own eyes. It even swallowed them. How did you know that it was not defending itself? How did you make sure that it was also the killer of other majestic beings? The disappearance of the majestic beings has been ongoing for almost 2 weeks now. If you think that the mussel is the criminal behind the case, you should start by investigating that particular period of time and establish its whereabouts during the crimes. If you truly cared about the case of the missing majestic beings, you would have started the investigation right away and report the findings to the Emperor Immortal. But what have you done so far? You have convicted the mussel of a crime that it has never committed merely by witnessing the kill of 3 majestic beings. You have come to such a remote place to torture it and instigate it to befoul my reputation. Have you always been carrying out your investigations so idiotically Or have you any ulterior motives? Are you trying to create slander about me? All four of them looked at one another in wonder. While frowning, Tai Zheng tried to justify their action. We are here because of some urgent matters. We cannot simply head back to the ninth heaven due to the lack of time, so we have to keep it with us. We did not come here to torture it purposely. What are the urgent matters? Tai Zheng was irritated. Why should I report our orders to you? Gu Shijiao answered coldly. I am not interested. I am only asking because I am unfortunately involved in this matter. Why can you tell me about it? Is there something you are afraid to say? Have you failed to patch up your lies? Furiously, Tai Zheng answered, There is no lie to patch up. We are here because we know that a rare majestic being will make its appearance here within 3 days. We have to wait here so that we do not miss it. While waiting, we might as well interrogate the muscle. The Emperor is very concerned about the case of the missing majestic beings. He is eager to solve the case. Instead of investigating the prime criminal that you have proclaimed the muscle to be, you chose to stay here for 3 consecutive days and wait for the rare majestic being. What if the muscle was not the criminal? What if the real criminal was still out in the world, committing the same crime again because of the delay? Aren't you afraid that the Emperor might punish you for your delay? Mouth agape and tongue-tied, all four of them did not know how to refute her powerful words. Gu Shijiao continued scornfully. Need I ask that you are carrying this out under someone else's order? Nonsense. We only answer to the Emperor. Who could incite us to do otherwise? This is all nonsense. Gu Shijiao took a look at him, then to the other man. She asked another question. One of you is an expert in the use of poisons, right? Couldn't you see that the muscle's violent, raging behavior was due to some wicked, poisonous spell? The four men were at loss of words. All eyes were on Tai Lu, for he was the only one who was knowledgeable in the use of poisons. Tai Lu responded in a rage. Nonsense! I didn't notice any poison. It had been 3 days, so all evidence of the poison had already disappeared. Tai Lu was not afraid of her finding it out. Gu Shijiao smiled, very sarcastically. She turned and focused on Tai Zheng instead. I have some questions for you. When you saw the muscle, were its shells bright red? Were its eyes suspended in midair? Were its eyes bloodshot, densely covered with fine vessels? In its human form, were its fingers about an inch long? What Gu Shijiao described was exactly what he saw. He hesitated, but did not deny it. Yes. Those are the signs of the manic poison. Once encountered, one will lose the ability to act rationally. When triggered, he or she will not be able to resist killing. The affected ones will do things that they will not normally do. The poison is rarely seen, but an expert should be able to observe it. Hence, you have disregarded the fact that the muscle was poisoned. Why? Once again, all eyes were on Tai Lu. I have heard about the manic poison, but never seen it. Moreover, there are not many muscles that have acquired the human form. How will I know that it is not its usual form for battle? Tai Lu answered carefully. Gu Shijiao responded scornfully. If you are an expert, you should at least have some doubts the moment you see the signs. You should have tested to see if the muscle was really poisoned. Did you do so? I had not thought of that. Tai Lu is obviously giving a lame excuse. You have not. As one of the great guardians of the Emperor Immortal, you have to be careful and meticulous. You should not be so reckless. After the capture, you did not perform any test on it despite knowing that something was not right. You should have investigated its whereabouts, but you did not. Instead, you put it into the stupid bottle gourd and tortured it ruthlessly. You forced it to admit that it was acting under its master's command. Obviously, you're trying to blame me. I believe that I have never done anything wrong to you. So why did you do that? It seems like you are the one being instigated. Tai Lu was at a loss for words. He could not find a valid argument at the moment. The other men were astonished, too. Tai Zheng coughed as he spoke. About that, I admit that it is our mistake. However, where is your evidence to prove that the muscle is not the prime criminal of the case? I can be the proof. A man interfered. It was Long Sai. He took a turn and emerged from behind the tree. The muscle, along with its master, have been staying in my residence for the past 2 weeks. The muscle only left 3 days ago. The 4 great guardians were shocked. The missing case of the majestic beings had been around for 2 weeks now. Therefore, according to Long Sai's explanation, the muscle was indeed innocent. 4 of them looked at one another helplessly. Tai Lu then continued to defend the team. The muscle is not the prime criminal of the case, but it not entirely innocent. After all, it killed 3 senior immortals and their 3 majestic beings. Before he could finish his sentence, a shadow flashed before his eyes all of a sudden. There was a hard slap on his face. He rose abruptly and attempted to swing at the shadow figure. Intuitively, the shadow avoided his strike and teased him, "How dare you hit me?" Tai Liu's face was still burning with pain due to the sudden strike. His cheeks were bruised, and his nose had turned purple. "You started first. I am only defending myself." He was enraged. Yes, the same goes to the 3 senior immortals. Wasn't the muscle allowed to defend itself when they attacked it? Gu Shijiao answered him with an icy tone. Tai Lu was at a loss for words again. Tai Zheng spoke up for him. "Now that we know that the muscle is not the prime suspect, it is indeed our mistake for taking it in. Hereby, I would like to apologize to you. Can we let the incident pass?" Gu Shijiao did not seem to accept his apology. "Do you really think that an apology is enough for the torments that you have put my majestic being through? Do you think that I'm a fool? What do you want, then?" Gu Shijiao flickered her fingers nonchalantly. "Let Tai Lu undergo the same torments." Tai Liu's jaw dropped in disbelief. Tai Zheng continued, "Why do you have to argue a point to death, even when I have apologized? The muscle is only a majestic being. How can you compare it with a man? In my eyes, it is even nobler than any of you. I do care for my majestic being. If it is wronged in any way, I will definitely claim justice for all the suffering that it has been through." Tai Lu was strongly annoyed by the idea. "You have already destroyed my precious bottle gourd. Your majestic being is only a little hurt. I have lost more than the muscle." Gu Zijia's eyes darkened. "Are you trying to say that I should not punish you?" "Of course. You cannot punish me. Also, we cannot simply release the muscle. Although it is not the prime criminal in the case, it has taken away the lives of 3 senior immortals. According to the law of the Saha world, when a majestic being harms a celestial being, it has to be punished with the death penalty, regardless of its motive. Its bad example will serve as a warning to others. Therefore, we need to take the muscle back to the 9th heaven for a trial, so it will get the punishment that it deserves." Tai Lu explained confidently with a powerful voice. The muscle was taken by surprise, but Gu Shijiao seemed calm. She gave him a half-smile and warned him, "You will not take my words seriously if I do not show you my power." As soon as she finished her warning, she waved her sleeves to unveil what was underneath. A sudden glimpse of light flashed before their eyes. Countless of silver needles flew towards Tai Lu, like an unavoidable storm. Tai Lu, a tough man, was unfortunately turned into a silver hedgehog, with countless of silver needles penetrating into his skin all over his body. The silver needles were very fine, and the intensity of the pain was equivalent to the stinging of a bee. No one had expected Gu Shijiao to strike him first. What surprised them, even more, was the rapidity of her movement. In the blink of an eye, Tai Lu was already covered entirely in needles. Tai Lu only managed to cover his face. The pain was unbearable, even for a man as tough as him. Gu Shijiao flickered her fingers casually to show that she did not care. "My majestic being is as important as a family member to me. The value of thousands of bottle gourds is still incomparable to what it means to me. Also, I am not a member of the Saha world, so I need not obey the laws here. In my eyes, you are not any superior to my majestic being. It is not its mistake to defend itself in a lethal fight. If you want to take it away, you have to go through me first. The loss of the bottle gourd will be one of the prices that you have to pay. I will not torture you with the pain of extreme temperatures. You only have to suffer the pain of the needles." The other men were shocked to the core. They knew that the mysterious ghost face possessed powerful kung fu, but her actual strength was far more powerful than what they had expected. The speed of her movement, the accuracy of her spell, the intensity of her spiritual power and the oddity of her kung fu was enough to make her a qualified match for the divine lord and his wife. Surely, she was even more powerful than the Emperor Immortal. The four of them needed to plan a surprise attack on Gu Shijiao. They were still hoping to take the muscle back for its trial. However, they dared not attack her anymore after witnessing her strength and power. The wise men decided not to fight when the odds were obviously against them. In the end, they gave her some irrelevant small talk before leaving with Tai Lu, who was now like a hedgehog look-alike. Tranquility finally returned to the woods. Long Sai heaved a sigh of relief. He complimented Gu Shijiao for her strength. "Shijiao, you are the best." The four men are usually very arrogant and unapproachable by many. They abuse the power that is authorized by the Emperor Immortal and simply arrest or kill anyone as they please. Except for the Emperor Immortal, they will not obey anyone else. Most of the celestial beings are afraid of them, but dare not say a word about their overbearing and oppressive acts. Gu Shijiao only responded with a smile. On a rock, she stood. Suddenly, her body trembled and she fell to the ground. Long Sai was surprised. He quickly gave her a hand to help her stand. "Shijiao, what happened to you?" When he was holding her up, he realized that her entire back was wet. Did she really sweat so much? Chapter 2050. Revenge. For Gu Shijiao was not used to being in physical contact with anyone, so she wanted to push him away. However, Long Sai grabbed her hand to stop her from resisting, only to realize that her palm was all sweaty as well. Quickly, he took off her mask to examine her complexion. Her face was as pale and white. Sweat broke out all over her forehead. "Shijiao." He called out her name desperately. He held her wrist steadily in his grasp to read her pulse. It was no longer a steady beat. Instead, her pulse was going very fast and chaotic. It was a sign of the recurrence of her past injury. "What happened to you?" Long Sai was in a complete shock. Gu Shijiao closed her eyes briefly to catch her breath. She refused the pill that was offered by Long Sai and took her own pill from her storage bag instead. Then, she sat on the ground and started meditating. Long Sai dared not interrupt her. He only stood by her side to keep her safe. A few moments later, Gu Shijiao opened her eyes. She finally stopped sweating, but her complexion was not any better. Pale and weak, she heaved a deep sigh. "I have overused my spiritual power," she explained. She was severely weakened and basically narrowly escaped death. All she really needed was a quiet rest now. However, she was anxious about the muscle. She had to come searching for it, even in her weak condition. Her kung fu was only partially recovered. Under the current circumstance, she really should not have used her spiritual power to fight them off. Nevertheless, she had to show them her real power to intimidate them, sparing no effort in her ultimate strikes. The first time, she had to use a significant amount of power to destroy the bottle gourd. The second time, she had to send out the silver needles. The consequence of the overuse of spiritual power was the recurrence of her injury. "Why did you have to give your all?" Long Sai was angry. Gu Shijiao closed her eyes to avoid being distracted. "If I do not use my ultimate moves, I will not be able to save the muscle's life." The time when she used her spiritual power to shatter the bottle gourd, she could already feel the recurrence of her injury. She was in acute pain, but she tried to look her best so that the four great guardians would not notice her weakness. Otherwise, they would not let her go alive. "Instructor Long, there is something fishy behind this matter. Someone is trying to make me the scapegoat. The muscle has unfortunately become a victim of their plot. There must be something much more complicated going on about the four great guardians. I must keep the muscle out of their hands, so the fight is a risk that I had to take." As soon as she stopped, a man could be heard laughing scornfully. "You are like a spent arrow, which is no longer a threat to our position. How can we fall for your trick?" Soon, three great guardians emerged not too far away from them. Among them were the eldest guardian, Tai Zheng, the second guardian, Tai Liang, and the fourth guardian, Tai Shu. The third guardian, Tai Lu, was nowhere to be seen. Long Sai was surprised to see them again. Their spiritual power was equivalent to the strength of a mighty immortal. Hence, they were almost unbeatable in the Saha world. He was no match to their power at all. As for Gu Shijio, she could barely even stand. Why are you here again? Long Sai stood up and hid Gu Shijio behind him. Taizheng looked at him sternly. The muscle has committed a brutal crime, so we have to bring it back to the Emperor Immortal. As for the woman, she has injured Tai Lu. A proper explanation is required, so we have to take her along with us. With his fists clenched, Long Sai was obviously irritated. What if I disagree? Taizheng responded callously. Long Sai, are you going to rebel against us? Long Sai's face turned pale at the intimidation. I dare not. I am not rebelling by standing up for her. She is a friend of mine. Taizheng acknowledged him with a sneer. So what if she is your friend? Are you going to disregard the law because of your friendship? She is not guilty of any crime. Long Sai explained hesitantly. Guilty or not, it is up to the Emperor Immortal to decide, not you. Don't worry. We are only taking her back for the Emperor for him to make a decision. Taizheng tried to bait him. Long Sai knew them well. If they had Gu Shijio in their hands, she would be tortured to the maximum extent, if not killed, especially since she had thoroughly offended all four of them. He believed that they would seize the opportunity to get rid of her. However, there was nothing he could do, even though he could already foresee the consequences. His power and strength were too weak to protect her. Instructor Long, don't worry about me. Let me go with them, Gu Shijio offered weakly. She did not want to get her friend into trouble. Moreover, Long Sai would not be able to stop them from taking her away. If he insisted on defending her, he would most probably lose his career or even his life. Under current circumstances, she knew that she would not be able to get away from them anymore. Nonetheless, she was intrigued by the fact that they returned. Why would they turn back so suddenly? Did someone divulge the severity of her injuries to them? Long Sai looked utterly helpless. Without leaving her side, he tried to make another offer. In that case, let me take her back to the Emperor. Taizheng was impatient. You? Who do you think you are? Your relationship with her has yet to be determined. Just now, you even stood up for her, which makes you one of her accomplices. Leave. If you refuse, I shall bring this matter to a close in the harshest way possible. Armed, the other two guardians surrounded them in a siege. All of a sudden, someone from afar spoke contemptuously. If I'm going to be her witness, does that make me one of the accomplices? In search of the voice, the three guardians looked up curiously. Gu Shijio was half lying on Lu Wu's body as support at that very moment. The sudden sound caused quite a stir to her, for she recognized it. It was Di Fui. She looked up, too, and saw Di Fui floating in the air on the back by Zhe. He dressed entirely in white, which was rarely seen. The color of the white robes was comparable to that of the clouds. He used a hairband to secure his hair, decorated with a purple gem. The gemstone shimmered brightly, like the glistening sunlight. He was not wearing a mask this time. His eyes swept across the scene as he caught a glimpse of Gu Shijio before giving Taizheng his full attention. Eldest Guardian, do you know who I am? All three of them had never seen the adult Shen Yinma, so they could not recognize him. However, they had seen Bai Zhe before. Bai Zhe was the only majestic being of its kind who resided in the residence of the Divine Lord. Who else could he be if he was entitled to make Bai Zhe's ride? He must be the son of the divine couple, Shen Yinma. Even the Emperor Immortal had agreed him. Therefore, the three guardians had no choice but to suppress their arrogant, warlike behavior. Are you Prince Yinma? We hereby bow before you. Swiftly, all three of them were on their knees. Di Fui answered in a mocking tone. Why do you bow? I am here to be the woman's witness. In other words, her accomplice. I offer myself to be a convict that you so wishfully care to detain. Would you like to cuff me as well? Anxiously, Taizheng stammered. I dare not. I dare not at all. You must be kidding. Di Fui gave him a warm smile, as warm as the gentle spring breeze. Do you think that I am here to joke? Intimidated, the three men kept kneeling and bowing their heads. They dare not utter another word. Di Fui continued with an icy tone. You have misused your authority to wrong an innocent being. You have even taken advantage of your power to bully others in their perilous state. I once thought that the four great guardians were fairly good men. Now, I realized that I was obviously wrong. Taizheng was determined to defend their action. My prince, there is something you're not aware of. Although the muscle is not the prime suspect, it has indeed killed 3 senior immortals and their majestic beings. It is not entirely innocent. Chapter 2052. His presence, too. As for the woman, she insisted on defending the muscle without first identifying the truth. The third guardian, Tai Lu, is injured because of her. Therefore, I would like her to come with us to the 9th heaven. Di Fui took a look at the muscle, who was now resting on the back of Lu Wu. Instinctively, the muscle trembled a little when their eyes met. It could not explain the awe and veneration that it had for the man. Di Fui lay his body down lazily on the back of Bai Zhe, with his hand supporting his chin. I see. Muscle, come here. Tell me everything that you have been through over the past few days. I would like to know, he demanded smilingly. Before the muscle could say anything, Taizheng quickly interrupted. My prince, the muscle is a sly old fox. What it says may not be the truth. How will you know that it is not the truth before the muscle even speaks? Di Fui answered with a sarcastic smile. Taizheng argued, This is its cunning nature. The muscle could no longer hold back its rage. I will not lie about it. I will admit whatever that I have committed. I dare to take the blame for what I have done. Bai Zhe suddenly offered, Master, I can replay the entire scenario. No one dared to refute its offer. Therefore, Bai Zhe transformed into its human figure and leaped onto the back of Lu Wu. Firstly, it had to find out the time when the muscle encountered the 3 senior immortals. Then, it put his hand on the muscle's shells to make a connection. On another palm, streaks of white rays slowly emerged. It aimed to light the surface of a rock to project the images. Slowly, the scene started to replay. The first one to make the appearance was the muscle. In its human form, it crouched down among the foliage, carefreely grilling its meat. Its human figure was in the form of a cute and adorable child. It was wearing its belly band, with 2 twisted knots on each side of its head. Its white and plump skin made it look very adorable. 3 senior immortals were exiting the woods when they saw the muscle. Quickly, they approached it. They hid behind the bushes to secretly discuss a plan. From their conversation, it was known that they had mistaken the muscle as a baby ginseng that had cultivated long enough to acquire its human form. They were planning to catch it. They had even discussed how they should cook it. The 3 senior immortals looked decent, very unlike how they planned to cook it, which was rather brutal. For example, the most valuable part about a baby ginseng was its heart. Hence, they planned to dig out its heart first. The delicacies before its eyes had caught the muscle's full attention, so it was unaware of the approaching danger. Before the 3 senior immortals could attack the muscle, its sense of danger was suddenly triggered. Intuitively, it looked up and caught the figure of a man standing afar, obscured by a layer of black fog. It could not see his face clearly, but his aura was extremely intimidating. He was not a man that it should mess with. Immediately, the muscle used its ground drilling to make its escape. The 3 senior immortals were obviously unaware of the presence of the mysterious man, so they were all surprised by the muscle's sudden escape. With their mouth ajar, they gave each other a look. Reluctant to let their prey escape, they decided to chase after the muscle with ground drilling. 2. At one of the hills, they finally caught up with the muscle. The muscle had already returned to its original form. Upon seeing the muscle, the senior immortals were indeed disappointed to find out that it was not a baby ginseng. In their discussion, they all agreed that it was still a rare encounter to witness a muscle that had cultivated long enough to acquire its human form. The internal pearl must be lying somewhere between its shells, and that was a priceless asset. However, the only problem was that the muscle obviously possessed great kung fu. Moreover, the majestic being had an owner. They knew because they heard the muscle blabbering that it was going to hunt a musk deer for its master. It was a crime to kill a majestic being with an owner for no reason at all. In the Saha world, it was a crime that bore severe punishments. Chapter 2053. His presence. 3. After a brief discussion, they proposed a good plan. They tried to make the muscle the scapegoat for the recent disappearance of the majestic beings. If they could convince others, they had more than enough reasons to kill it. Hence, they carefully planned each step and then set the plan in motion. For instance, once the muscle was dead, one of them would offer one of his least favorable majestic beings and kill it with the muscle's shells. By doing so, they could easily fabricate the charge against the muscle. When the structure of their plan was finally well made, they started to surround the muscle. Altogether, they verbally abused the muscle by accusing it as a monstrous muscle that indulged in all sorts of evil doings. They proclaimed that killing it was as an act of righteousness by removing evil from the Sahel world. They declared their action out of a sense of justice. However, their only evidence at the time was the musk deer that the muscle had just grilled. The trio claimed that the musk deer was not an animal in the wild. It was a majestic being that they owned. Certainly, the muscle defended itself. It made its identity clear by bringing up its ownership. Also, it argued strongly that what it grilled was merely an ordinary musk deer. To the muscle's surprise, the senior immortals refused to listen to its explanation. Instead, they decided to attack it. During the fight, they put forward many lethal strikes against the muscle. They intended to pursue it to the brutal end. Meanwhile, they continued to abuse it, saying that it was not qualified to be in the upper bound, and that even a boar here would be nobler than itself. They called it foolish and assumed that its owner must be equally dumb. They even threatened the muscle that they were going to cook it, for the taste of its meat must be good. Humiliating the muscle was part of their plan, as they were concerned that their spiritual power might not be a match for the muscle's incredible strength. They wanted to trigger the muscle to its greatest extent so that it would lose its focus in the fight. The idea worked. Indignantly, the muscle lost focus and was unfortunately injured by one of their swords. Once it was hurt, the situation was completely reversed. All of a sudden, the muscle's eyes became bloodshot while the color of its shells turned fiery red. Stamping about in a frenzy, it gave full play to its brutish disposition. Its spiritual power suddenly increased by great folds. The three men were no match for the muscle, so they decided to reveal their true forms. They were a fox, a silver wolf, and a peacock. Their sizes were considerably massive. In the siege, they fought for a very long time, until the sun had set. The ending was already known. The men failed to capture the muscle. Instead, the muscle had swallowed them all. All the images were clearly depicted on the surface of the rock. When Di Fui saw the big revelation of the three senior immortals, he could not hold back his amusement. They were merely three beasts, which had also acquired their human forms. They camouflaged as three senior immortals and played a dirty trick in their plot against a majestic being. Isn't it an appropriate ending for them to be eaten? Great guardians, does this look like a crime to you? Tai Zheng was speechless. In contemplation, Di Fui gently knocked the rock beside him. The mysterious man obscured in the dark fog looked fishy. If I am not mistaken, he must have cast something wicked on their weapons. When the muscle was injured, the poison caused its animal disposition to be completely unleashed. Tai Zheng found his chance to get away from the embarrassment. Afire with noble indignation, he commented, "That is right. The man in the fog could be the prime criminal behind the disappearance of the majestic beings. He fooled us all by pointing us in the wrong direction. My prince, allow us to report to the Emperor Immortal immediately and request for more manpower to arrest the man." He bowed and was ready to leave with the other two guardians. "Have I allowed you to leave? Are you going to get away with the fact that you have arrested the wrong person?" Di Fui halted them. They were at a loss for words. "My prince, the lady has already punished us. Like a hedgehog, Tai Lu is injured with many needles pierced through his body. Unable to move, he is still lying somewhere," Tai Zheng explained while putting up a smile on his face to please Di Fui. "It was you who carried out the illegal punishments in the first place," Di Fui reminded. Chapter 2054. His Presence. 4. Gu Shijio was merely defending her right as well as her pet. From what I have observed, the mussel bears multiple injuries ranging from burns, frostbites, and steel needles pierced through its body. However, Tai Lu only has silver needles pierced through his skin. She has clearly shown you mercy. I can see that she does not want to lower herself to the likes of you. If it were me, Tai Liu's consequences would not be as simple. Tai Zheng remained silent. He remained unconvinced but dared not speak another word. He had heard about the little prince before. He would smile very often to his friends as an act friendly, but when he did the same to his enemies, there must be more significant motives behind that sarcastic smile. The prince's kung fu might not be as good as the three of them, but his status was too mighty to challenge. He was not someone that they should mess with. Moreover, Bai Zhe was around as well. Bai Zhe was a mythological creature. Once it truly demonstrated its power, it could easily turn the place inside out by causing mass destruction. Even if they worked together, they would still not be able to defeat it. Instead, it could easily swallow them all. Wisely, they chose to avoid the fight when the odds were clearly against them. Once again, they bowed before Di Fui to get his forgiveness. Di Fui answered sarcastically once again, "Why are you bowing before me? I'm not the one that you have mistreated." Tai Zheng was wise enough to submit to the circumstance. Quickly, he switched to bow before Gu Shijio instead. She closed her eyes, thus ignoring him completely. Di Fui waited until they had bowed enough before demanding, "I do not care who is behind the plot. I only want to make one thing clear. This woman is now under my protection. If you intend to cause her trouble, you will make yourself an enemy of mine. I will let you go this time, with one condition: leave an arm behind, and you may go." All three of them were in great shock. They wanted to argue, but Di Fui added another warning before they could even voice out their opinion. "If you say another word, you will have to leave both arms behind." Carefully, they saw that Bai Zhe was eyeing them with hostility. The stern look from Di Fui made them realize that there was nothing that could change his mind. They each cut off an arm and went away in disgrace. Long Sai was finally relieved, for Gu Shijio was truly safe now. However, he did not like his current situation. The prince could easily achieve the things that he could not, no matter how hard he tried. He was suddenly reminded by the fact that the prince was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was blessed with a good life for being born into the right family. His parents both had a widespread reputation, so many would choose not to go against the prince's order. He could basically do anything as he pleased. As for Long Sai, he could only work his way up slowly, quietly. He shook his head to dismiss the thought, for it would only make him feel worse. He wanted to read Gu Zijia's pulse to examine her condition. In an instant, he could feel that he was being pushed away by someone. Unguarded, he took a few steps back to keep his balance. Long Sai looked up, only to realize that Di Fui was already standing in front of Gu Shijio. He was a tall man. When he looked down at Gu Shijio, who was in a sitting position, it was as though he had a commanding view from a good vantage point. "How do you feel?" Di Fui asked. After a few moments of quiet rest, Gu Shijio could finally suppress the condition of her very chaotic vessels. Her injuries were slowly recovering. Soon, she opened her eyes and responded, "I am feeling much better." Her heart was suddenly throbbing as Di Fui laid his fingertips on her wrist to read her pulse. His fingers felt warm. When they made contact with her wrist, she could feel his warmth slowly penetrating into her blood vessels. Her heart started to throb with excitement. Strangely, when Long Sai touched her, she did not feel the same way. Gu Shijio was very grateful to Di Fui. The last time they met, she starved him, and he left angrily. She thought to herself that she would visit him one day when she was fully recovered. Also, she would make him a few dishes as an apology. Little did she know that she was going to see him today when she needed him most. "Fui, thank you for your help this time." Gu Shijio gave him a pleasant smile. Di Fui's fingers moved away from her wrist. He faintly said, "You're welcome." He then turned his head and looked at Long Sai. "Why is General Long here?" Long Sai paused for a moment before answering. He wanted to be cautious with his words. "After Shijio came here, I had lost contact with her, so I decided to come to look for her." Di Fui's sight turned back to Gu Zijia's face, and the corner of his lips was curved upward. He smiled and said, "Why didn't you contact me?" Gu Shijio remained silent. Difui stared at her eyes and smirked. "Well, I am your rumored boyfriend, right?" He seemed to be sarcastic this time. Gu Shijio sighed. This guy was really living in the modern world. She said, "Hey, it's a misunderstanding. I am sorry for bringing you trouble." The wide smirk on Difui's face disappeared in an instant. He responded out of disappointment. "Sorry is useless." He then looked at her and asked, "Can you walk?" Gu Shijio had managed to suppress her injuries with meditation. What she needed to do now was to find a tranquil place to cultivate and recover. There were always beasts passing by in this place. Although these people were guarding her, and the beasts would not hurt her, if the environment were too noisy, it would dwindle her recovery. Hence, it seemed that she still had to go back to Long Sai's house to rest. She slowly got up, but there was still a feeling of something cracking in her chest. She did not dare to use too much strength, so she waved to Lu Wu. "Lu Wu, come over, kneel." Lu Wu was big in size. She usually had no problem jumping up on it, but now she dared not use her spiritual power. She could only command Lu Wu to kneel so that she could climb up on it. When Lu Wu was about to come over, Difui suddenly stepped forward. Gu Shijio did not expect him to approach her. He lifted her off the ground. He was carrying her the way a groom carries his bride on their wedding day. Gu Shijio was in his arms, and his faint aroma lingered around her nose. She was nervous, and somehow she recalled the sweet dream she had. Her pale, pretty face suddenly turned red. Subconsciously, she struggled in his arms. "I can walk." In her current situation, she naturally could not get rid of him. Difui's arms slightly tightened their grip on her body, and then he looked at Baizé. Baizé was smart. It immediately showed its original appearance to let Difui board it while carrying Gu Shijio. Long Sai frowned. He stepped forward and spoke. "Your Highness, Shiju needs to find a place to rest for a while. I think we should let her go to my place." Difui looked at him and asked, "Why would my fiancée go to your place?" "Baizé, let's go." Baizé answered, "Okay." It saw that Gu Shijio was still struggling, so it quickly said, "Miss Gu, it is better to cultivate in our Fantian Hall, since it is full of spiritual power. It can help you to speed up your recovery." It then disappeared in the sky. Long Sai was speechless. He did not even have the chance for a rebuttal. Lu Wu was in a hurry, so it carried the muscle to chase after them. Objectively speaking, Lu Wu was considered a quick-flying beast, but it was slow compared to Baizé. After all, Baizé was the head of the 8 mythological beasts. It had lived for 10,000 years while Lu Wu was only hundreds of years old. As compared to Baizé, Lu Wu was still a young beast. The weather was windy, and the sky was full of clouds. Baizé was flying at high speed, but it had also set a wizardry barrier. Hence, when Gu Shijio sat on its back, she could only feel a gentle breeze. It felt like a very smooth ride. Difui was a gentleman. After he carried Gu Shijio onto Baizé's back, he put her down to sit alone while he sat opposite her. Besides, he put a small jade table in between them, as if he deliberately wanted to keep a distance from her. Baizé's original body was huge. It was bigger than an elephant, and the hair on its body was also very soft. Sitting on it was like sitting on a soft mat. Hence, Gu Shijio was undoubtedly comfortable. She felt that the scene in front of her was familiar. It seemed that she had been experiencing something similar with someone a few years ago. Difui waved his sleeve, and 4 plates of snack, as well as a jug of wine, appeared on the small table. He raised his hand and put out 2 wine glasses, one in front of him and one in front of Gu Shijio. Gu Shijio said, "I can't drink now." "I know. I don't plan to let you drink." Gu Shijio was speechless. Why would he put the wine glass in front of her then? To let her smell it? Difui raised his hands again and pulled out a glass bottle out of nowhere. There was light blue liquid inside the transparent container. He poured the liquid into the glass in front of Gu Shijio. "Drink this instead." Gu Shijio was a little bit thirsty, so she did not reject him. Alternately, she thanked him. She took up the glass to take a sip of the liquid. It was fruity, and the taste was not bad. Therefore, She finished the juice in just 2 gulps. Di Fui looked at her curiously and asked, "Are you not afraid that I had put something in this water?" Gu Shijio could not help but laugh. "What would you put in the water?" Maybe I put an aphrodisiac pill inside." He looked at her as if he wanted to laugh. Gu Shijio was speechless. Was it appropriate for a 6-year-old kid to tease a girl like this? He was basically teasing someone who could be his grandmother. Gu Shijio responded wittily, "I believe you have better things to do." In her current state, if he really wanted to do something bad to her, he did not have to use poison. The juice that was given by Di Fui was good. After drinking, it quenched not only her thirst, but also relieved her hunger. Even the pain in the chest seemed to be reduced. She pushed the cup forward and asked, "One more glass." Di Fui had teased her so blatantly, but she could remain calm and did not even blush. He was not used to such a response. Quietly, he poured another glass for her. When Gu Shijio was about to drink it, Di Fui suddenly asked her, "Did you just blush?" Gu Zijia's hand shook, and she spilled a few drops of juice from the glass. She would never tell him that she thought of that sweet dream. It would be a huge embarrassment. Di Fui smiled gently and asked, "Why are you so nervous?" Gu Shijio simply lied. "Probably because of my injury. The blood flow is not stable." That was why her blood pumped up to her face. Gu Shijio felt that this lie was not good enough. She could detect that Di Fui's eyes had been on her the whole time. She was even starting to feel numb just because of it. She cleared her throat and decided to avoid this topic. She then sniffed the liquid inside the cup and asked, "What is this juice?" She thought of making it for herself in the future. "Juice. This is not juice. It is the dew of poplar from Buddha Guanyin." Gu Shijio rubbed her eyebrows. Although fairies and monsters were everywhere on this continent, there was no Buddha Guanyin in this world. There was no Buddha Rulai or any other gods that people usually recognized in the modern world. The characters in the myths and legends simply did not exist. So where did he get the dew of poplar from Buddha Guanyin? Apparently, he was telling a lie. Bai Zhe could not help but clarify on his behalf. "Miss Gu, this is given by the great devil." She collected the dew from all the rare fruits in Fantion Hall and was only able to make 1 bottle. It can help to calm the mind and keep one focused. It can also help to stabilize any unstable blood flow. It is very effective even if you practice until almost turn insane. The effect is comparable to the dew of poplar from Buddha Guanyin. Gu Shijio finally understood. She gently patted Bai Zhe. General Bai is the most reliable one. Bai Zhe trembled involuntarily. Di Fui stared at her hand that was still touching Bai Zhe's hair and slowly said, "Bai Zhe is a man, and he is much older than you." Gu Shijio was speechless. She naturally knew that Bai Zhe was a mythological beast that had been practicing for more than 50,000 years. He could change to human form at will and had cultivated to the level of a great deity. It had a highly respected status. Even if the Emperor Immortal saw it, he had to show respect and bow. It was actually not a beast, but a fairy. However, when Gu Shijio saw it, it was mostly in its beast appearance. Therefore, in her subconscious, it was a fairy pet, just like the mussel in Lu Wu. Hence, she could not help but cuddle it, and forgot that it was actually a man. Gu Shijio calmly took away her hand. It was at this point that she suddenly recalled her own majestic pets. She quickly turned back to take a look. The speed that Bai Zhe was traveling was as fast as a missile. Hence, Gu Shijio could only see a cloud of mist. Both Lu Wu and the mussel were nowhere to be seen. You don't have to check. They can't catch up. Di Fui could read her mind. Gu Shijio sighed. This kid was indeed a genius. He was only 6 years old, but was already so good at understanding people's mind. Not to mention that his skills were also unparalleled. She could not imagine how good he would be when he grew up. When this kid grew up, would there be any possibility for other people to be better than him? She was a little unfocused when suddenly her wrist was grabbed tightly. Gu Shijio was shocked. Subconsciously, she tried to pull her hand away, but failed. She looked up and saw that Di Fui was looking at her with a smile. "Are you afraid of me?" Afraid of him? How could it be? She was not afraid of anything. How could she be afraid of a small kid? You have overthought. Gu Shijio said sincerely and did not forget to tease him back. You are still a kid. Di Fuya's eyes darkened. Kid? Are you sure? Of course. Gu Shijio had observed the kids of this continent. She saw with her own eyes that the 6-year-old kids of this continent were running around the streets and fighting. The difference between the kids in the lower bounds and here was that the fight between the kids here was about throwing rocks instead of small light ball. Nonetheless, the person in front of her was certainly an exception. He seemed to have eaten some growth hormone. Although he was only 6 years old, he was already an adult. Sai, the son of the Divine Lord and the Great Devil, was really the extraordinary one. Gu Shijio could not help but think of the time when Shen Yinma was still a kid. He had a pair of big eyes with double eyelids. His lips were red, and his cheeks were pinkish. Unfortunately, his time in kid appearance form was too short. She had not seen enough, and he had already grown up as an adult. She also thought of the divine couple. When the couple left, their son was still very young and tiny. If they came back a few years later and saw their son in his current state, wouldn't they wonder if their son had been kidnapped? What are you thinking? Di Fui asked her gently. Gu Shijio was somewhat in her own world. She subconsciously replied, when your parents see you like this, will they feel disappointed? Why would they feel so? Di Fui did not understand. You have grown too fast. I will definitely not want my son to grow so fast in the future. A chubby and cute kid is nice to have as well. Di Fui was speechless. While he was checking her pulse, he patiently said, I don't think that will happen to our son. Our children will only have half of my genes. The other half will come from you. After all, you are a human, so I think our baby will probably go through the normal growth process. You really have a lot of modern knowledge. What's wrong with my genes? I'm also powerful. I'm only over 200 years old, and I have practiced to the level above a mighty immortal. Anyway, when did she say that she wanted to have a kid with him? She could not even figure out whether he was Huang Tu or not. She only wanted to take him as a disciple. Little Nianma, I was just joking at that time. I am your elder, so it's better for me to be your master. Di Fui's fingers were still on her wrist. He interrupted her. I don't lack a master. I only lack a wife. If you want to stay with me to carry out your task, you can only be my fiancé. Don't ever talk about other statuses. Gu Shijio now had a headache. You. Of course, if you don't want to be my fiancé, I don't mind planning a wedding in the shortest possible time. Bai Zhe also happily added, please rest assured about the wedding. 8 of us will arrange it. We will definitely make it very grand and magnificent. Gu Shijio was stunned. What was going on? This kid was so straightforward when it came to pursuing a girl. Moreover, Bai Zhe seemed to be very supportive of their marriage. Everyone in this world was against her being together with Shen Yinma. Why would Bai Zhe encourage it? Wasn't it afraid that its little master marries the wrong woman? The veins on her forehead were starting to be visible. She suddenly regretted what she had done in the past to provoke him. In the case that this kid ends up not being Huang Tu, how could she be with him and ignore her duties? Her pretty face abruptly turned serious as she stared at Di Fui. She spoke coldly. Nianma, you are a child. It is too early to consider these things. Your task is to practice, and my task is to help you practice. I will never think about other things. If you continue to talk about those nonsenses, I would rather not do this task. Di Fui's fingers slowly let go of her wrist, and he quietly looked at her for a moment. He smiled and raised his glass to drink a sip of wine. Actually, I'm also joking with you. Gu Shijio remained silent. Di Fui looked at her again. However, your age is really beyond my expectation. You are only 200 years old. He thought that she was at least a few thousand years old. Many of his former junior brother and sister apprentices were also 200 to 300 years old. Some of them were even more than 700 years old. Countless people were older than her on this continent. Since Gu Shijio always implied that she was significantly older than him, he expected the age gap between them to be very significant. Only over 200 years old? According to the time scale in the human world, she could already be his grandmother. Gu Shijio initially felt that she was much older than him, but after having listened to his side of the story, she had a feeling that she was still very young. This kid was really good at talking. When she was about to say something, Fuya's fingers tapped on the table. In fact, you're also very extraordinary. Generally, at your age, it is considered a miracle to practice to the level of a senior immortal. You have reached the level of a mighty immortal. What kind of elixir have you consumed? This was her chance. Gu Zijia's eyes sparkled for a brief moment as she retrieved a small bottle from her storage space and put it in front of him. This is it. Fui looked down at the bottle. He recognized that these were the pills refined by the purple cloud mushroom. Gu Zijia's body leaned over to take a closer look at him. She looked sincere. To be honest, I used to be a very ordinary human. After I ate this, I was reborn, and when I practiced, the effect was doubled. That is why I can reach this level in just 200 years. If I did not know your identity, I would suspect that you are a marketer selling some wild medicine. Gu Shijio had continuously been promoting different medicines to him. Gu Shijio was speechless. Usually, people sold this in the market at a very high price while she was now giving it out for free. Nonetheless, she still had to put in a lot of effort to persuade him to take it. You should have eaten this medicine, right? Are you still unclear about its efficacy? Gu Shijio did not give up. Fuya's eyes fell on her little bottle, and he softly replied, I am not clear about its effectiveness. I have thrown that medicine away. Gu Shijio choked, and her eyes were widely open now. You threw it away? Why? Do you know that this medicine is extremely precious? There are less than 100 pills in the whole world. Her heart was in pain. She was always reluctant to consume the pills herself and would always put them in the safest place in her storage space. Sometimes when she thought about it, she would take it out and look at them to make sure they were still edible. Gu Shijio was never a fan of wealth. She was always willing to share good things with others. She had many rare medicines that she refined, and she always gave them out to her friends. However, she cherished this supplement very much. During the years when she was demotivated and did not want to do anything, this bottle could always give her hope and warmed her cold heart. Therefore, she had been reluctant to give it away. She had given one to Long Sai in the past to help him to reach level 10. She would only consume them herself when she was in a hurry to level up her spiritual power. If it were not at a critical moment, she would never simply take the pill. That was why this bottle was still usable until now. That was why she never expected him to throw it away. She was nervous, and her voice was noticeably louder. Fui looked at her angry face. It was rare to see her being so emotional. Her big dark eyes were open wide, and her lips were tightly sipped. Apparently, he provoked her. She was now like a little girl. Fui felt a little bad. He did not know why he suddenly had the mood to prank her. He smiled and spoke nonchalantly. It is only a pill. How precious can it be? You act like this. Are you exaggerating? Gu Shijio took in a deep breath. Only a pill? Do you know that this supplement is a rare and amazing product? You can't refine it anymore. Once you eat one, the quantity will reduce by 1. In the past, when Long Sai wanted to break the level 10 barrier, I also only gave him one. When he needed to pass through the calamity, I could actually give him one to guarantee his safety. However, I cherish my pills so much, so I consumed my spiritual power to support him instead of giving him another pill. Fui blinked in surprise. You have known Long Sai for a long time? He ascended from the lower bound. Are you from the same place as him? Of course, we were friends in the lower bound. Her relationship with Long Sai could be traced back to 3 generations. Fui looked at the bottle she put there. Did you give him his pill? As I said, I gave him one. He took only one, and it helped him to upgrade from level 8 to level 10 in just a few years. The people called it a miracle. Fui picked up the bottle of pills again and observed it. An inexplicable feeling in his heart surfaced again. He glanced at her and asked, So, are you suggesting that if I eat all these pills, I can quickly level up to a mighty immortal? Gu Shijio was not sure of the answer. You may not be able to level up immediately, but it can definitely speed up the process. For example, If you need 100 years to reach the level of a mighty immortal, after you eat this pill, you will probably only need 10 years. Difui smiled. I don't need to take 100 years to reach the level of a mighty immortal. He stared at the bottle and continued, I like to be unique and don't like to share with others. I don't need this pill. As soon as he raised his hand, something was thrown out from his hand. Gu Shijio smacked her own head. She was almost breathless when she saw this scene. Without much thought, she teleported in the direction of the item that was thrown. Her teleportation speed was breakneck. The object was already in her hand. Unfortunately, she was suspended in mid-air. She was a few kilometers above land and could not use her spiritual power now. So naturally, she could not fly. Hence, she ended up falling. Damn it. Gu Shijio wanted to curse. With her current condition, she would probably die or break her limbs. Gu Shijio tried to reposition herself, but she hurt her wound when she teleported earlier. She was in a lot of pain and could not use any strength. She could only watch as she continued to fall. Before she could complain about it, a white light flashed in front of her eyes, and her body was caught by a pair of arms. Even though the momentum of falling was strong, the arms that caught her were firm and stable. Of course, it was Difui who caught her. He used his spiritual power to prevent her from being hurt. However, the strength of her fall was a little bigger than he expected. He crashed onto Bai Ze's body, but Gu Shijio was safe and secure in his arms. Coincidentally, her lips touched his face. Do you want to die? No matter how expensive the pill are, they're only pills. Difui squinted and looked at her in his arms. He was somewhat angry. He just wanted to scare her, but he did not expect that she would fight so hard for a bottle of pills. The distance between the two at the moment could not be any closer. He could even see the fine hair on her blushed cheeks. Midway scolding her, he stopped. Her little face was ashen, and there was little sweat on her forehead. Apparently, her wound was reopened. He raised his hand and held her wrist to recheck her pulse. Gu Shijio lifted her wrist to avoid his grasp. She coldly said, "Let go of me." Difui could only release his grip. When she turned cold, the aura around her was powerful. The way she looked at him was full of anger. This time she was indeed provoked. She struggled without caring about her wound, so Difui did not dare to disobey her. He put her down on Bai Ze's back and put a hand on her shoulder as support. Gu Shijio did not appreciate his help. She raised her hand and patted his palm. "Get your hand off." Difui paused and explained, "I didn't throw your bottle. The one he threw out was a regular medicine bottle." Gu Shijio took a deep breath and ignored him. She threw away the bottle in her palm. Gu Shijio was very familiar with her own pill bottles. When she caught the bottle in midair, she already knew that this little bastard tricked her. If it were someone else, she would have slapped that person as hard as she could. However, this was Difui, so it would not have much effect. Furthermore, she could not beat him in her current state. She was now in a lot of pain, but had taken all the medicines she needed to take, so she could not take any more. If she took more, it would have adverse side effects. Therefore, she decided to close her eyes and start to meditate. Difui did not dare to provoke her anymore. He sat opposite her and looked at her. He always felt that the scene was familiar, but he could not remember when he had experienced it before. He was a little bit fascinated by this thought. Through her meditation, Gu Shijio circulated the spiritual power in her body and managed to suppress the pain. She then extended her hand to him. "Give it to me." Her precious medicine was still in his hand. Since he did not appreciate it, she wanted it back. Who knows if he was going to throw it away again? Difui looked at the little hand that reached out to him and concealed his desire to hold it. "What? Return my medicine to me. Haven't you given it to me? Since you only want to eat unique supplements, I don't want to give this to you anymore." Difui's eyes flashed. He put the bottle in her palm and coughed lightly. "If you really want to give me this, you can refine it again." Gu Shijio collected the bottle and said coldly, "You can go and dream about it. The material to make this medicine is hard to find. This is the only one in this world." In the past few years, she had entered the Buddha Fire land multiple times as she wanted to find the purple cloud mushroom again. She always came back home empty-handed. After that, The firmament stone told her that this purple cloud mushroom was extremely rare, and it might only appear once in 10,000 years. It asked her not to waste her effort and give up the idea of refining a new bottle. Gu Shijio closed her eyes and kept them shut until they reached the Fanteon Palace. She did not speak at all. Gu Shijio had never actually taken the Saha world as her home, so when she was here, she had always been traveling around and treated the sky and the sea as her home. She used to be fine with this arrangement because she could go anywhere she wanted to go. The sky was the curtain and the land as her bed. When she was hungry, she could always visit a restaurant to eat. She had complete freedom, and no one could control her. However, she now felt that it would be a good idea to have a resting place. Otherwise, she would have to trouble others when she needed to rest. For example, a few days ago when she was injured, she rested in the residence of Long Sai, and now she had to rest again at the Fanteon Palace. She secretly thought that it was not right to always stay in other people's house. When she was recovering in the house of Long Sai, the maids in his house always looked at her with a subtle expression, as if she had an affair with their general. She also heard one or two gossips while she was in his house. Of course, those gossips were not malicious, just some speculations. The maids knew that General Long had many friends, which included some female immortals. Those female immortals had a good relationship with him, but he never let these female immortals stay in his residence. Even if they visited him from afar, he would not let them stay overnight. The current medical skills of Long Sai were quite famous in the Saha world. When those immortals in the fairy world got injured in a fight and came to ask for his treatment, he would help to heal them, but never left any person in the house to stay. Regardless of how dangerous the injury, he would bring them outside to recover. However, Gu Shijio had lived in the house so freely. Gu Shijio was also housed in Long Sai's favorite place, the Hexian Tavern. General Long would make it a point to visit her and accompany her whenever he returned. Hence, it was reasonable for the little maids to gossip about her privately and regard her as the sweetheart of Long Sai. Some even guessed that good news between her and General Long was coming soon. In a turn of events, Gu Shijio now lived in the Fanteon Palace that belonged to Di Fui. In the Fanteon Palace, there were no maids, only the 8 mythological beasts who were in charge of everything in the palace. Nonetheless, Baizé specially invited 4 little flower fairies to be her maid and take care of her. The 4 little flower fairies were very sensible and lively. They were also very attentive to serve her. However, occasionally they also had a little gossip about her. The theme of the gossip was similar to the gossip in the House of Long Sai, except that Di Fui had replaced the male character. It was the same for the 8 mythological beasts. Except for Baizé, the other 7 were very curious about her. They often found various excuses to visit her and intentionally complimented their smart and wise young master. It was evident that they wanted to make her Di Fui a pair. This made Gu Shijio somewhat speechless. There was once when Baizé intentionally talked about it in front of her. Gu Shijio simply asked, "General Bai, you should know that I am much older than him. The people outside call me Old Evil Lady and say that I am an old cow that wants to eat fresh grass. Don't you have any concerns in this regard?" Baizé sneered and sized Gu Shijio. "Miss Gu, you are just over 200 years old. Women at this age are considered young in our world. How can you be an old lady? As for the age difference between you and our young master, it is actually not too big. His Highness is 10,000 years older than the Devil Master. Aren't they a lovely couple living happily with each other? It has made so many people envious about them." Gu Shijio was speechless. Baizé seriously looked at her with a serious expression. "Miss Gu, in my eyes, our young master and you are like a young couple that grows together. You are the perfect pair for each other." Gu Shijio was speechless again. She was not convinced. Was there a young couple with such a huge age gap? Perhaps the 8 mythological beasts in the Fanteon Palace also shared a difference of opinion from the rest of the people here. Gu Shijio was delighted that Di Fui had such good servants. However, she did not want to be a pair with the young master of this house. She just wanted to complete her mission. After she recovers from this injury, she must go out and find the right place to build a house so that she would not have to listen to these gossips anymore. The scenery at the Pantheon Palace was extraordinarily beautiful. The architecture was amazing, and clouds were floating underneath the palace. There was flowing water all around the palace as well. The lake looked picturesque. Although Gu Shijio had been to the Pantheon Palace several times, she was usually in a hurry and never had time to enjoy the scene. This was the first time that she could explore the palace. Baize was very hospitable. It allowed her to walk around and asked her to take this place as her home. However, Gu Shijio did not walk around too much. In these days, she spent most of her time in the Qingxiao Pavilion that Baize prepared for her to meditate and rest. The Qingxiao Pavilion was located in the middle of the Great Lake. It was a majestic piece of architecture, and the spiritual power here was the most abundant. Gu Shijio could easily restore her spiritual power here. Di Fui had also taken the time to visit her, but she was still angry at this naughty kid, so she had not given him a lot of attention. When she talked to him, she was always cold. Di Fui did not seem to care much. He always stayed at her place for about 15 minutes before he left. However, eventually, he cut down his visits from 3 to 4 times a day to once every 2 days. Later, it became once every 3 days. On one particular day, after Gu Shijio finished meditating, she opened her eyes and listened to the pitter-patter sound of rain outside. She then got up and walked to the window. She opened the window and watched until the rain subsided. The fairy-scented grass under the window was swaying in the rain, and the air was full of fresh fragrance. It was beautiful. Randomly, she had the mood to take a stroll, so she propped up an umbrella and walked out. Gu Shijio walked along the corridor to avoid getting wet. The drizzle hit the lake and splashed its surface, while the fish in the lake jumped out of the water from time to time. Gu Shijio looked up at the clear sky. She leaned against the railings and looked into the distance. She saw the vast expanse of mist and was simply amazed. It had been some time since she could freely observe and appreciate her surroundings. It would be perfect if there were a pair of lovers who leaned against each other in this weather. All of a sudden, Gu Zijia's vision became blurry as she saw another illusion before her eyes. It had been a while since her last experience. As usual, there were a man and a woman. The background was a small pavilion. The woman stood leaning against the railing, and the man leaned on her side. One of his arms was cuddling her, and she also leaned her head on his shoulder as if they were a pair of lovebirds who enjoyed watching the scenery. She could hear the conversation between the two of them. Celestial Masters, have you thought about having kids? Do you want to have kids? Yes, I want it. I want a baby boy, as handsome as you are. What about you? Would you prefer a baby boy or a baby girl? I like them both as long as they are from you. We will have them. I will use your kids to keep you so that you can't bear to leave. Stupid. I think the best person to keep me is you, not our kids. Then it'll have double insurance. When you have kids and me, you certainly could not bear to leave us. You have to try to survive, or else I might cry until I die. All right, we'll try very hard. Shijio, even if I leave, I will try to come back. Please wait for me. The man in the mirage kissed his wife at his side, and the two of them hugged each other tightly. Gu Shijio stood on the curved corridor and looked at the scene like a mirage in the distance. Even though it was a lovely scene, Gu Zijia's heart ached again. She looked at the man in the mirage. Although she could not see his face, the purple robe reflected in her eyes and stung her heart. Celestial Masters, she whispered and extended her hand in that direction. However, a gust of wind came, and the illusion disappeared. The umbrella that Gu Shijio held in her hand flew with the wind. Gu Shijio could only watch as the umbrella that fell into the lake swiftly drifted away. She snorted in disappointment. This umbrella was a tool she brought up from the lower bound. She saw an illusion that Celestial Masters had shared an umbrella with her. The umbrella seemed to be this particular one, so she valued this umbrella very much. When she saw it drop into the lake, she wanted to teleport there to take it. But suddenly, a hand patted on her shoulder. Let me do it. A purple figure flew out from her side. Her heart jumped. It was Di Fui again. Di Fui was dressed in a purple robe and looked dashing as usual. He had to act swiftly to catch up with the umbrella. He stretched out his hand to get the umbrella and was back to the shore in a jiffy. The umbrella was handed to her. "There you go." Gu Shijio thanked him and accepted it in her hand. She shook away the raindrops on the umbrella and carefully kept it. "Who is Celestial Master Zhua?" Gu Shijio was surprised. She looked up at him and saw him standing against a column. His eyes were dark, and he had a smile on his face. His hair was casually tied up with a purple ribbon, and there were a few threads of hair that dropped by his cheek. Since he did not get a response, he decided to ask again. "Who is Celestial Master Zhua?" Gu Shijio took a deep breath and smiled. "Fui, let's talk about it." She did not want to be so ambiguous anymore. It was not beneficial for both sides. She knew that Huang too had another identity, which was Celestial Master Zhua. She remembered when she was in the lower bound that she went to the house of Celestial Master Yu before. The house was empty. Gu Shijio wondered why there was no Celestial Master Zhua if there was a Celestial Master Yu. She used to ask around, but no one knew that if there was a Celestial Master Zhua. Now she understood. Celestial Master Zhua was Huang too. The world had erased the existence of Huang too, and naturally also erased the existence of Celestial Master Zhua. When she married him, she also liked to call him Celestial Master Zhua. He asked her to wait for him, so she naturally had to wait. Regardless of what happened to her, she had to wait. The red mud stove was boiling water, and cups were on the table. 4 plates of desserts were placed one after the other, and each kind of dessert looked cute and appetizing. Everything was placed on a lotus-like jasper table that had 2 flower-like stools. The 2 of them were sitting on each side. Gu Shijio raised her hand to brew tea for him. Her movements were very graceful and pleasing. Di Fui sat there to observe her. She had been ignoring him for a few days, so it was rare this time that she wanted to talk to him. Di Fui took the cup of tea she poured for him and took a sip. Although the tea was good, he had a bad feeling about the situation. It seemed like she was going to talk openly with him. Sure enough, his intuition was very accurate. Gu Shijio first thanked him. She thanked him for his continuous rescues, and then she apologized. She apologized for the nonsense that she had said in front of the public. Di Fui was very impatient. "What are you trying to say? Be direct." Gu Shijio took a deep breath. "You asked me who Celestial Master Zhua is. Let me tell you now. He is my husband." Dang. The teacup in Di Fui's hand fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. He looked at it for a moment, and then he looked up. What? What? Although he tried to calm down, his hands were involuntarily shaking. Gu Shijio did not look at his pale face. Her eyes were fixed on the lake outside. She began to tell him her own story. She storied about her own experiences in the lower bound, about the illusion she saw, and about her memory loss. Gu Shijio provided enough details to ensure that her story was clear and informative. She used a very plain tone with no decorative language to make sure her message was direct. However, it had created a wave of turmoil in Di Fui's heart. The tea was getting colder, and the falling flowers outside the pavilion had covered the ground where they sat. The flowers fell on Gu's zigious robe, her hair, and even her feet. Gu Shijio revealed everything to him. It was as if a huge weight was lifted off her shoulders. Strangely, instead of feeling relieved, she also felt a bit of emptiness somewhere in her heart. Di Fui was an excellent listener, though. He did not interrupt her once during her sharing. After listening to her, he asked her a few questions, and after she answered them, he turned and left. "You have been looking for him all these years." "Yes. I've been looking for him for more than 200 years. Although I have forgotten him, I'm still looking for him in my subconscious. And the reason you have been looking for me is to complete your mission for his resurrection?" "Yes." "Do you think I might be his reincarnation?" "There is a possibility because you have a lot of things in common with him. For example, both of you like purple clothes, and your body size seems to be almost the same. In fact, their appearance was almost identical." However, Gu Shijio did not say the last one. After all, It was her sweet dream. Di Fui quietly listened to her about the commonalities. He had a short laugh, and there was a sense of teasing in his voice. As far as I know, once the Lord from lower bound successfully ascends to the upper bound, they will be a celestial being in this world, and it will be recorded in a book. If they are unsuccessful, they will never be able to return, and there will be no reincarnation. Don't you think that it is just wishful thinking that I am his reincarnation? Gu Exigiu shook her head. I'm not sure. I did not say that you must be him. So, this is the reason that you have been so ambiguous to me? Gu Shijio did not answer, but she seemed to admit it from her expression. So, as of now, you are giving me the chance to train and see whether or not I am the reincarnation of Huang Tu. If you prove that I am him, then you will continue the relationship with me? Gu Shijio could not deny, so she nodded. Di Fui's fingers tapped on the table. He laughed for a long while and slowly said, If I am not him, you will abandon me? Gu Shijio struggled with this question. She took a deep breath and said, If that happens, we will still be friends. What makes you think that I will want to be your friend? Gu Shijio was slightly stunned. I can help you to reach the stage of a mighty immortal faster. After all, this is for your own good, isn't it? There is nothing bad for you. I don't care about becoming a mighty immortal. Di Fui interrupted her. Gu Shijio sighed. If that is the case, I have no idea what to do. Just to be clear, if I am not Huang Tu, there will be no chance of us getting together. Gu Shijio bit her dry lips before responding. You can interpret it in this way. Di Fui stared at her for a long while. He gripped his sleeves tightly. At this moment, he had a rather stern look on his face. Although Gu Shijio did not find it pleasant, she did not find it appropriate for her to leave either. The truth hurts, but a lie is worse. Gu Shijio did not want to hurt him later on when his feelings had developed even further. Di Fui's feelings for Gu Shijio would probably be equivalent to a kid having his first crush. When he liked her, he would be as aggressive as fire. However, this kind of feeling came fast and disappeared fast too. Once she revealed the truth, he would try to recover from this feeling and would not be too hurt. Fui, you are still young. In fact, you don't have to think about a relationship yet. I think you should use your energy to practice. She tried to calm him and persuaded him, but she was interrupted by Di Fui. Who are you to tell me what to do? Why do I need to listen to you? Gu Shijio remained silent. Di Fui stared at her and sneered. Gu Shijio, why would you think that I want to be a spare tire? I can tell you now, I am not the reincarnation of Huang Tu. Even if I am, I will not accept your feelings toward me. The past is the past. In this life, I am Shin Yima or Di Fui. The celestial master Zhua or Huang Tu that you like has nothing to do with me. If you want to turn me into him, I can tell you that you are just dreaming. You can give up now. After he finished this sentence, he turned and walked away without looking back. This result was partially out of Gu Zijia's expectation. She felt empty in her heart as she stood there for a moment and did not move. Meanwhile, the rain had stopped and the air was fresh. The mussel came out of the water and climbed to her side. It clipped her dress with its shell and then sighed. Master, you shouldn't tell everything to him. In this case, he will never be cooperative with you. Gu Shijio did not speak. She actually understood in her heart that the mussel was right. She should not reveal the truth at this moment. She should continue to be ambiguous with him to let him practice until she finished the mission. However, she always felt that it was unfair to him. The better Di Fui treated her, the more uneasy she was in her heart. Now that the truth was revealed, she was finally no longer holding any guilt. However, she did not know how to wriggle out of her current situation. What should she do with this task? She had not figured out what to do next when suddenly, Bai Zhe had come to the door. He was dressed in white and asked, Miss Gu, how is your injury? Thanks for your care, General Bai. It is getting better. Gu Shijio was basically recovered. She just needed a few more days of rest to get back out there. Miss Gu, according to the rules of the Fanteon Palace, we usually don't allow any outsiders to stay in the palace. It was a special case for Miss Gu this time, So the young master allowed you to stay for a few days. Now that Miss Gu has recovered. Baizé did not finish its sentence, but Gu Shijio had already understood the meaning behind it. The other party was trying to get her out. She took a deep breath and asked, "Is this an order from your young master?" Baizé smiled, but his eyes could not hide the disappointment. "It is the rules of this place. Miss Gu, please forgive me for this." Baizé accidentally heard the conversation between Gu Shijio and Di Fui. It was very angry for its young master. It was so difficult for the young master to fall in love with someone, but he was treated as a spare tire in the end. This woman approached the young master just to save another man. She even wanted to change the young master into another person. Its young master was Shun Yinma, the son of the Divine Lord and the Great Devil. He was not the reincarnation of the Lord from Lower Bound. Even if he was, that could not represent anything. Anything in the past life should stay in the past. It had nothing to do with the young master in his current life. Gu Shijio smiled after a short ponder. "Fine, I will leave. Where is His Highness? Let me say goodbye to him before I make my move." "Do not worry. His Highness does not want to see you again. Take care. I think it is best for two of you not to meet again." Gu Shijio nodded her head lightly. "Okay." She turned around and was ready to leave. However, before leaving the vicinity, she took out a fishing rod from her storage space and tossed a fish hook with bait into the lake. Baizé was confused, so Gu Shijio casually explained, "I owe him a bowl of fish soup. Just take it as a thank you for me for letting me stay here for a few days." Baizé remained silent. It was already in the evening, and the sun was setting. That made the sky turned orange and purplish. Di Fui was enjoying wine as he sat in the pavilion above the pond. He drank quite a lot, as there seemed to be 6 to 7 jars nearby. Besides that, his face blushed, and his vision looked blurred as well. Baizé walked to approach his master with very light footsteps. Quietly, he placed a bowl of fish soup on the table. "What is this?" Di Fui asked after taking a glimpse of the soup. "Miss Gu made it. She said it is a token of appreciation for letting her stay here over the last few days." Baizé answered honestly. "Huh." Di Fui chuckled sarcastically and continued, "Where is she?" "She left with 2 of her celestial pets." Di Fui did not say anything but twirled the wine glass in his hand as if he was pondering. Meanwhile, steam continued rising from the fish soup. It was getting cold as no one bothered to drink it. Di Fui was still drinking wine and did not seem to be interested in taking a sip of the soup. Baizé finally tried to convince him after watching for a while. "Your Highness, do you want to try the soup? It is pretty good, but it would no longer be nice when it turns cold." Di Fui stared at the fish soup again and casually said, "Just pour it away. I am not interested." Baizé was shocked, as he remembered that his master was depressed after he returned home because he did not get to drink the fish soup she made. How come he did not want to drink it now when Miss Gu made an effort to make the soup for him? Baizé was there the entire time as Gu Shijio caught the fish and made the soup for him. It was not as easy as he thought. She was looking for a particular fish, and she only found the one she wanted after the 16th attempt. Besides that, she also removed the fish scales and all the bones by herself before finally making the soup. During the cleaning process, the bones cut her hand as she lost her focus. She tasted the first pot off soup and poured it away because she did not find it good enough. Initially, Baizé was quite upset with her. However, he felt much better after seeing her putting in so much effort just to make a soup. The serving that Baizé brought it to Di Fui was the 3rd pot of soup she made. Even he thought that was the best soup he has ever smelled, and he could not make such good soup by himself. Hence, after he heard Di Fui's instruction, he coughed as he found it wasteful. "Your Highness, the fish soup is delicious. Why not take a sip? Pour it away." Baizé remained silent. He still wanted to convince him, but he did not expect that Di Fui was already running out of patience. He took the fish soup and walked toward the window. In the next second, the soup along with the bowl was thrown into the lake. Di Fui was standing in front of the window. He watched as the soup splashed onto the surface of the lake. He only turned around when the water returned to its tranquil state. Bai, she has nothing to do with me starting from today, so you do not have to report anything about her anymore. Also, stop following her around. Bai nodded. All right, master. The 8 mythological animals were instructed to follow Gu Shijio to ensure her safety. It was because of this that Di Fui could arrive in time when Gu Shijio was in danger at the Yari Mountain. Certainly, the 8 mythological animals had done an outstanding job. Perhaps it was time for them to take a break. However, could their young master really lay down everything between him and her? Bai doubted it. He looked at his master and realized he was drinking again. After all, His Highness was good at drinking. Hence, it was not easy for him to get tipsy. Bai used to worry that his master was over-consuming alcohol. Soon, he realized that it was normal for him. His young master was generally good at drinking like his father. In fact, it was not easy for the Divine Lord to get drunk. Therefore, Bai just let him continue drinking and stood there. Consequently, Di Fui was drunk. All the wines stored in the Fantion Palace were extremely valuable with amazing taste. It was also high in alcohol content, and that made Di Fui fall asleep for 3 days in a row. He had a few dreams during those 3 days. The dreams were quite confusing, and it did not make much sense to him. He met Gu Shijio again in the dream, and they even went on an adventure together. He spent most of his dreams running and escaping in dangerous situations. There was even a cave with many weird and ferocious beasts chasing after them inside. Fortunately, they made it as they fought against the beasts together. He was holding her hand throughout the adventure. After they escaped from the cave, they saw an ocean with strong waves below a cliff. Suddenly, Gu Shijio took out a fishing rod and claimed that she was going to make fish soup for him. He then happily waited and watched her prepare the fish soup. She scooped a bowl of soup and passed it to him as she smiled. "Here you go. It is specially made for you." When he was ready to take it, a hand suddenly stretched over and took the soup away. Di Fui was very pissed off and saw a man with a purple robe as he lifted his head. Strangely, the man in the purple robe was just standing in front of Di Fui without wearing a mask. However, he could not see his appearance clearly. His focus was only on the fish soup in his hand. Gu Shijio was shocked and looked at the man in the purple robes. "Huang Tu, Celestial Master Zhua, you are finally here." The man in purple robes opened his arms as he looked at her. "Shijio." Di Fui watched helplessly as Gu Shijio, who was holding his hand with love earlier, ran into the embrace of another man. Di Fui's hands trembled as he watched them. He wanted to separate them, but he just could not move as if his feet were nailed to the ground. It felt like a century had passed before Gu Shijio finally noticed Di Fui. Apologetic, she smiled. "Fui, I've been looking for him for a few centuries. He is the only one I like. How about me?" Di Fui asked with a hoarse voice. Gu Shijio smiled with guilt. "Fui, I only treat you as a kid. You can have all the fish soup in the pot. Take care." Di Fui was very upset. He just watched Gu Shijio turn and left with the man in purple robes, and she did not even look back. He fixed his eyes on the loving couple as he stood there. They were happily whispering to each other as they left, but the scene hurt him so much. He shifted his gaze to the pot nearby and realized there was enough fish soup to fill half a bowl. He pursed his lips and flicked his sleeve. Consequently, the pot immediately flew away and dropped into the ocean. Bang! Di Fui awoke from his long sleep. He had a bad headache. He saw Bai with a worried expression as he slowly opened his eyes. "Your Highness, you are awake." Di Fui was informed that he had been asleep for 3 days. It was all just a dream. He got up from the bed and looked into the mirror. He looked horrible. His hair was messy, his eyes were filled with loads of capillaries, his clothes were crumpled, and there were even a few wine stains on his collar. He had not been so miserable before. Bai was certainly concerned for him. He had not seen his master in such a condition. Di Fui lifted his head, and his gaze met Bai's gaze in the mirror. He smiled and said, "Bai, get all the necessary items ready. I want to bathe." Bai's eyes sparkled. Sure. His young master would usually use the cleaning spell to clean himself up. Hence, this act of physically cleaning himself was a sign that he was going to say goodbye to the past and start everything over again. Indeed, Difui came out from the bathroom with a fresh look after an hour. He was wearing a light green robe, and he got half of his long black hair tied with a black hairpin. He was certainly dashing. He was smiling as he walked out, and all of the lady servants could not stop looking at him. "Baizé, is there any food? I am hungry." Sure. Please be patient. I will prepare something now." Baizé quickly rushed into the kitchen. Quick enough, Baizé had prepared a table full of food. Difui slowly enjoyed the food, just like how he used to. Baizé finally felt relieved. Miss Gus' appearance probably attracted his highness. It was good that he finally understood and could let go of her. Difui saw Baizé send 4 lady servants away as he finished his meal. The 4 lady servants were flower elves. They knew that this was a good place for them to cultivate and upgrade their spiritual power. Thus, they tried many ways and begged to stay, as 1 day of cultivation in the Fantion Palace was equivalent to a month of hard work out there. However, Baizé did not want to give his master any reason to recall anything about Gushijio. After all, they were hired to serve Gushijio when she was here. Hence, all of them should go too, since Gushijio has left. Baizé was negotiating with them when Difui came out. Casually, he interrupted the conversation. Let them stay. The 4 flower elves were so happy and quickly kowtowed as an appreciation. Lazily, Difui added, "However, the Fantion Palace does not pay servants with nothing to contribute. Hence, the cleanliness of this palace will now be your responsibility. Those who are lazy, just pack your stuff and leave." "Yes, your highness." The 4 flower elves immediately left to get their work done. Baizé looked at Difui with a complicated expression. "Your highness," Difui waved his hand to dismiss him. "It does not look good to only keep 8 of you in the palace. All of you are mythological animals who can compete with mighty immortals. How can you do chores every day? Go recruit a few servants and get them to do the chores." Baizé did not dare to disobey. Hence, he left after taking the note. Certainly, there were many good candidates when the Fantion Palace announced their available vacancy. Even senior immortals had applied for the role. Baizé carefully selected from the pool of applicants and finally chose 8 servants and 4 maids. When he was about to lead them back to the palace, someone called him. "General Bai." Baizé turned back and saw a pretty young lady standing nearby. She was Wan Jinhua from the Fengyan Valley. She was followed by several brother and sister apprentices behind her. "General Bai, is Nianma in the palace? I represent my master to send a letter and want to hand it over to him personally." Baizé nodded. Yes. She was surprised by his positive response and quickly followed him. Guan Jinhua almost could not hide her excitement. Along the way, she tried to talk to Baizé casually. However, Baizé did not speak much, but just smiled. Guan Jinhua was the favorite disciple of Master Fengxing, so her status was naturally noble. It was higher than the servants that Baizé had recruited. Nonetheless, she chatted with them as well. Baizé coldly looked at her. He thought that this girl was open and friendly. It seemed that its young master liked girls who were open and friendly as well. Perhaps Guan Jinhua could make its young master happy again. Guan Jinhua entered the Fantion Palace for the first time. She was nervous and excited. However, on the surface, she did not show anything. What was so special about Fantion Palace? It was the place where the Divine Lord lived. In this continent, there were not many people who could enter this place. Now she was finally going in. The entire architecture and design of the Fantion Palace amazed Guan Jinhua. A thought suddenly came to her mind. If she could marry Shen Nianma, she would be the hostess of this palace in the future. How good was that? However, Nianma already had someone in his heart. He liked that old woman a lot. Even if she could use some trick to be part of Fantion Palace, she could only be a concubine here. It was not bad to be a concubine in this place, though. What's more, Shen Nianma was so charming. When Guan Jinhua finally saw Difui, he was sitting in the garden and playing chess by himself. He was wearing a light blue robe that made him look like the sun after the rain. The wind raised his hairline, and he seemed very casual. Guan Jinhua was still a bit nervous to see him. After all, he was furious the last time they saw each other. She stepped forward and tried to be cheerful. Senior brother apprentice. Di Fui was still holding a black chess piece. He just nodded and faintly said, I am not your senior brother apprentice anymore. Why are you here? Guan Jinhua respectfully handed over her master's letter. Master has a letter for you. I hope that you could take a look at it. Di Fui was stunned. He took the letter and opened it. There were actually a few pages of paper, so Master Fengxing had written a long letter for him. He first talked about his friendship with the Divine Lord, then said that he appreciated the talent of Shun Yinma. He mentioned that he should not forcibly impose his own thinking on his apprentice, and he should not secretly take action against Gu Shijio without Shen Yinmo's knowledge. The letter seemed to be full of sincerity. The final purpose was to tell him that he had spoken with the other 9 masters. They want Di Fui to go back to be their apprentices and forget what had happened in the past. No master in history apologized to their apprentice and asked them to return to their apprenticeship. Master Fengxing had given in to Di Fui. After Di Fui swept through the letter, he put down the letter and did not say anything but continued to play chess. Guan Jinhua looked at him and held her breath. After waiting for a reasonable amount of time, she finally spoke. Senior brother apprentice, your masters regretted that their actions made you leave, and they blamed themselves every day. They said that regardless of whether you recognize them as your master or not, they will treat you as their favorite apprentice. Senior brother apprentice, Master Fengxing said that when the Divine Lord sent you to join their 10 apprenticeships, he must have had his reason. If you give up like this when the Divine Lord and the Great Devil return, they might feel disappointed. Senior brother apprentice, the martial arts in this word is profound. With your talent, once these famous teachers teach you, you can get twice the result with half the effort so that your skill can get to the next level in the shortest time. The 10 masters are the leaders of all kinds of martial art. You shouldn't cut off all the relationships with them just because of short-term anger. Guan Jinhua was compelling. She discussed and analyzed the various pros and cons with Di Fui. Di Fui did not look up. Instead, the black and white chess pieces continued to move across the board. After Guan Jinhua finished talking to him, she found that he had not listened to her at all. She was disappointed, but was not ready to give up. But just when she planned to continue talking, Di Fui pointed at his opposite seat. Let's play a game. We will talk about it if you win. All right? Guan Jinhua was surprised by this gesture. She nodded. Good. What surprised Di Fui was that Guan Jinhua was actually a master at playing chess. After a game of chess, although Guan Jinhua lost the game, Di Fui was quite happy, so they actually continued to play 3 matches. During the game of chess, Guan Jinhua tried to talk with Di Fui. She told him that General Long Sai had broken some rules and was sent to prison. Gu Shijio had been running around for him. She entered into the heavenly palace, met the Emperor Immortal, and pleaded for Long Sai. Di Fui's hand was holding a white chess piece. He was stunned to hear Gu Zijia's name. He casually asked, what was the rule that Long Sai broke? I heard that he has a relationship with the former Imperial Prince, and the former Imperial Prince has a plan to rebel against the Emperor Immortal. He had contacted his old followers secretly, but the information was leaked and someone reported to the palace. I'm not very clear about it. I only heard about it when Master Fengxing inadvertently talked about it. Di Fui did not speak. Although he was young, he also knew the cruelty of political struggle. The former Imperial Prince, regardless of whether he wanted to rebel or not, was always a thorn in the eyes of the current Emperor Immortal. He would certainly like to get rid of him. Even if the former Imperial Prince did not intend to rebel, the Emperor Immortal would somehow find a way to eliminate him. Not to mention that Yun Yanli was actually quite an ambitious person. Long Sai used to be a subordinate of Yun Yanli and was also promoted by Yun Yanli when he was still unknown. In fact, he was really in contact with Yun Yanli recently. If Yun Yanli were really rebellious, it would be easy to guess that he would try to get Long Sai involved. Nonetheless, it would appear on the surface that Long Sai had been caught in between the crossfire. The Emperor Immortal should know Long Sai well. However, he still sent him to prison. What was his intention behind it? Was he trying to use Long Sai to threaten someone? Perhaps the target of Emperor Immortal seemed to be Gu Shijio. Why did he want to threaten Gu Shijio? Was he trying to get Gu Shijio to work for him? Or did he want something from her? Di Fui had a series of thoughts in his mind, but quickly dismissed them. He had nothing to do with this woman anymore. Why should he care about her? When he was about to refocus his mind to continue playing chess, Baize walked in to report, "Your Highness, His Majesty sent his chamberlain to invite Your Highness to the Fairy Flower Feast tonight." Baize handed over a golden-stamped invitation card. Di Fui did not intend to accept it. Usually, he was too lazy to participate in such gatherings. However, the Emperor Immortal, Yi Tianli, had a deep relationship with him and the Fantion Palace. In the past, Yi Tianli used to pursue Shun Niemo's mother. Two of them almost got engaged. Later, he even befriended the Divine Lord and became good friends with the couple. He was already in touch with Shun Nianmo when Shun Nianmo was still a kid. Nonetheless, the kid did not really like his Uncle Yi. After the divine couple left, Shun Nianmo had been traveling around on his own. He rejected all invitations from the Emperor Immortal and was too lazy to socialize with him. Therefore, the Emperor Immortal still did not know what he looked like even after he turned into an adult. This time, the Emperor Immortal must be curious to meet him after his unpleasant encounter with the Great Guardians. Di Fui never felt the need to satisfy the curiosity of others, so he just waved his hand to dismiss the stamped invitation. "Rejected. I don't want to go." Baize was stunned and hesitated whether or not to respond. Di Fui noticed that he obviously wanted to say something. He was somewhat impatient. "Just say what you wish to say." Therefore, Baize continued, "Your Highness, the Chamberlain who sent the invitation card said that His Majesty had invited friends from all around the world to the feast, which includes the mysterious Grimace person. Moreover, she has agreed to attend the feast." Di Fui was certainly surprised to hear that, but immediately continued to play his game of chess. "It has nothing to do with me." Baize choked. It had been nearly half a month since Gu Zijia's departure, and the young master had never mentioned about her since then. Even when he saw Baize and the servants cleaned up the place she used to stay, he did not say anything. He did not bother to pursue cooking anymore. He told Baize that he simply did not have talent in this area and did not want to waste time. The young master used to love eating fish, but he had not eaten it for half a month. Even though Baize put on his desk, he would just leave it aside. The most significant change of the young master was that he never wore his iconic purple robe anymore. Initially, the young master loved to dress in purple. However, in the past 10 days, he wore a varied array of robes. Baize initially thought that its young masters would not be able to resist his temptation and would look for her after 10 days. It seems he was mistaken. The young master was very steady in handling relationship issue. Perhaps this relationship was still in the puppy love stage for the young master. Now that the truth had been revealed, he could quickly let go of the feeling. Baize was delighted. It looked at the invitation card again before putting it away. Since its young master did not want to go, it should just forget about it. It turned and left. However, while it was still an earshot away, it heard a soft "dock" sound behind him, followed by a snort from Guan Jinhua. The lady asked in shock, "Senior brother apprentice, are you intentionally making the wrong move? You're killing 3 of your pieces." After a brief second, it heard Di Fui casually answer, "Perhaps you have not seen it. This is a trick. Without destruction, there can be no construction." Baize nodded. Not bad. It was true that without destruction, there could be no construction. When the Divine Lord played chess, he liked to use this trick as well. It involuntarily shook its head as it thought that its young master was distracted by the earlier news. It seemed that it had overthought. It strode away. What Baize did not know was that the young master lost the game, and Guan Jinhua was pleased with that. Gu Shijio was sitting in a courtyard somewhere in the 7th heaven. It was a private house that Gu Shijio just bought. It was located in the downtown area, which was crowded with people. The house was not too far away from the local market. The mussel did not understand why its owner would buy a house in such a crowded place. She had always liked to live quietly. Therefore, when she bought this house, the mussel could not help but ask about it. Gu Shizhou only answered with a few words. The greatest place to hide is in the city. Gu Shizhou then asked the mussel, "Do you like the food in restaurant Xian Kalai?" The mussel was very honest. "Yes, I do. This place is very close to the restaurant, so you can go there to eat anytime you like." The mussel's eyes shimmered. It found that its owner considered about it when deciding to where to stay, so it felt touched. Soon, the mussel found out the beauty of this house. There was a fountain in the courtyard of the house. The water from the fountain was milky white and cold. Even if people drank from it on a hot day, it would still be too cold. The house was disliked by its original owner and was sealed away. However, after seeing it, Gu Shizhou did not hesitate to buy it because it was a rare medicine fountain. By using the water from this fountain, it could help in doubling the quantity as well as the quality of the medicine she made. When Gu Shizhou came out of the Fantian Palace, she was adamant about getting her own place. With her own home, she did not have to bother others when she got injured and did not have to worry about being driven out by others. Nonetheless, the mussel felt that a person like her should live in a beautiful mountain and in a quaint house to show her uniqueness. However, Gu Shizhou told it that such people could not hide. Eventually, they would be invited to out from the mountain as high-ranking hermits. Besides, it was not convenient to live on a mountain. Living in this downtown area would not attract attention. When she was tired after wandering around the world outside, she could rest here without having to travel too far. When Gu Shizhou bought this house, she disguised her appearance and asked an ordinary worker to furnish it. Everything was simple and ordinary. It would not attract the general public's attention. Even Long Sai also did not know about it. Gu Shizhou managed to take a good rest in this house for more than 10 days. Every day, she practiced and exercised. She also refined medicine and strolled around the yard. She enjoyed a lot. If it were not for Long Sai, she would continue her simple life like this. Unfortunately, after she recovered from her injury, she went to General Long's residence and saw that the general's house was sealed. She got a note from the general's housekeeper that Long Sai was guilty of a crime and that he was being investigated. He was sent to the prison. It was easy to find out the ins and outs of the matter with Gu's Zijius ability. Her thought was in the same direction as Di Fui. She thought that the reason why the Emperor Immortal caught Long Sai was to lure her out. She considered the circumstances and decided to go to the 9th heaven to meet the Emperor in person. The Emperor Immortal was not an easy person to meet. He was busier than a president in the modern world. His schedule every day was full. So, if she wanted to go through the standard procedure, she would need to send an invitation to make an appointment. In that case, she would have to delay her visit for at least a few days. Therefore, Gu Shizhou used teleportation to bypass all these formalities. When she arrived, the Emperor Immortal was handling official duties in his study room. He was surprised to see her all of a sudden. Nevertheless, because his skill was high enough, he was not panicked when he saw her. Gu Shizhou revealed her identity without any delay. She was also very straightforward. She had an open and honest conversation with the Emperor Immortal. Unfortunately, Gu Shizhou found that the situation was really disadvantageous for Long Sai. There was a large stack of evidence in the hands of Emperor Immortal. There were confessions from those who were once the subordinates of Yun Yanli. Those people reported that Yun Yanli planned to rebel. They even provided a list of allies. In recent months, Long Sai and Yun Yanli had also had contact. Although his name was not present in the so-called alliance, he was also a suspect. Long Sai had never reported the fact that Yun Yanli was still alive. Even though he did not join in his alliance, he had committed a crime for keeping a secret. Hence, it was not a mistake for the Emperor Immortal to put Long Sai into prison. After reviewing the materials, Gu Shizhou only asked the Emperor a few words. "Your Majesty, do you believe that Long Sai really rebelled?" The Emperor Immortal did not speak. He naturally did not believe it. Gu Shizhou spoke again. "Long Sai has been working hard for His Majesty all these years. I believe that His Majesty knows his character very well. Yin Yanli had promoted him, and he did favor Long Sai. However, even though Long Sai knew that Yin Yanli was still alive and did not report, it can't prove that he wants to rebel against you. After all, His Majesty values Long Sai a lot. I believe that His Majesty is also very clear about this. Hence, there should be a reason why His Majesty has put him in prison. Let's just be direct. What do you need me to do for you to release Long Sai? The Emperor Immortal appreciated her straightforward stance, so he brought up his own conditions. Nianma is the son of my good friend. I don't want to see his reputation being shamed. Gu Shizhou naturally understood what he was referring to. The reputation of Shun Nianma had always been excellent. The only thing that made him blemished was that he recently rebelled against his masters and fell in love with the evil old lady. She looked down for a moment and chuckled. After that, she looked directly at the Emperor. Does His Majesty also feel that his relationship with me is something to be shameful of? The Emperor Immortal was stunned for a moment. Do you really love him? Would you die for him? Gu Shizhou did not speak. The Emperor Immortal turned away and said, If not, please let him go. He is still a kid after all. Gu Shizhou finally smiled and said faintly, Your Majesty has overthought. I have always treated Nianma as a kid. When I said those words, I was angry, but I never expected that it would spread so frantically. Please rest assured, I will find a chance to make this clear in public. Emperor Immortal sighed with relief. Let me arrange an opportunity to let you make it clear. What do you think? How about Long Sai? I will try to restore him to his usual life. Gu Shizhou agreed with it. Therefore, after careful planning with the Emperor Immortal, there was this fairy flower feast today. When Gu Shizhou received the invitation card, she was in her own small courtyard. The attendant of the Heavenly Palace specially sent her an invitation card and asked her to go. After the attendant left, the muscle was surprised. Master, I never expected that the people of the Emperor Immortal could find you here. This small courtyard is already exposed. Gu Shizhou twirled a branch in her hand and sighed gently. Yes, this Emperor Immortal is quite powerful. She's been living a simple life for a few days. After she came out of the ninth heaven, she had also used her teleportation power, which made people unable to follow her. She had surveyed the area a few times and confirmed that no one followed before she returned to her own small courtyard. Hence, she did not expect to be found by the people of the Emperor Immortal. When the Emperor Immortal sent someone to hand her the invitation card personally, it was, in fact, also to warn her that he had figured out her whereabouts. Master, do you want to go? Gu Shizhou cleaned up the place and gently answered, Of course. After all, I have promised Shin Yimma that I want to make it clear before the people to return him his good reputation. The muscle remained silent. The Fairy Flower Feast was a famous event in the Saha world. It was held every March and carried the same weight as the legendary Mother Queen of Heaven's Peach Feast. It was a big gathering between the Emperor and the Immortals. Although this event was typically held mid-March, this year it was held half a month earlier. The Immortals received the invitation for early March. The Emperor Immortal was still well respected here. All the famous Immortals in the Saha world would come to the feast once they received an invitation. The venue would be beautifully decorated with various flowers. The hall that the Emperor used to host the guests was the Yaoqi Tavern. There were many tables and chairs arranged in the chamber. On the tables, there were an array of dishes from sea, air, and land. Before the feast started, many Immortals had already arrived. It was very crowded in the hall because everyone greeted and chatted with each other. A lot of gossips were discussed, and the topics for this year were particularly more than before. The topics included the disappearance of fairy pets, the case of Yin Yanli's rebellion, and of course, the affair between the mysterious Grimace person and Shun Yinma. These Immortals had heard countless versions previously. Hence, before the arrival of Emperor Immortal, they gathered into groups to quietly discuss this topic. The existence of the divine couple was a legend in the Saha world. They had given their best to protect this world, so everyone had full respect for them. Naturally, they would care about their son. Besides, they had never seen Shen Yinma as an adult. Therefore, in most people's minds, Shen Yinma was still a kid. When the attendees talked about this, it appeared that Gu Shijio was very unethical to approach a kid. Furthermore, everyone also discussed her physical appearance. After all, when Gu Shijio appeared, most of the time she was wearing a mask, and no one could see her body figure due to the robe she wore. If it did not get the exact information, no one could even tell if she was a man or woman. Gu Shijio had shown her true appearance once in the Fengyun Valley, and the audience present were the 10 masters with their apprentices. The 10 masters did not like Gu Shijio, so even their disciples followed suit. The 10 masters also sternly warned their disciples not to say anything about the incident that happened in the Fengyun Valley. Hence, when they heard people talking about mysterious grimace person's ugliness, they did not interrupt and correct them. At most, they would comment generically that the most important element of immortals is their heart. Why should you care about their looks? Naturally, this sentence was misinterpreted by the public to mean that she was hideous, which was why no one talked about her. Besides, people would typically not believe the words of young disciples, such as those of spiritual master Yuhang, Si Qing, and Heng Qing. Therefore, there were many accounts of Gu's Zijia's appearance. There was a rumor that she was gorgeous, and her beauty could amaze the world. In stark contrast, there was a rumor that she was extremely ugly, to the extent that everyone would be appalled by her appearance. Some also claimed that although she was ugly, she had a very high-level skill that could help her mask and change her appearance to make her look beautiful. That was why Shan Yinma was fascinated by her beauty and even betrayed his apprenticeship for her. Still, the changed appearance could only deceive those with low skill. Those of higher skill levels could see through all her illusions. More than half of the people who came to participate in the Fairy Flower Feast were mighty immortals. Based on the last rumor, they thought that if she appeared, they would undoubtedly be able to see her original appearance. When the time came, they could join forces to restore her original appearance so that she could no longer use illusions to confuse people. The reason why they had this idea was that the emperor passed a message saying that the mysterious grimace person would be present today and would announce something important to everyone. The crowd was excited and tried to speculate what this mysterious grimace person would announce. Would it be a wedding announcement between her and Shen Yinma? The more the people discussed, the more they felt that it was a possibility. Some were worried, while others were filled with anger. The official starting time of the feast was 5 p.m. It had not reached the time yet, but the colorful lights in the hall had been switched on, and almost all the celestial beings had arrived. There were more than 200 tables arranged in the hall, and each table had 2 to 3 celestial beings present. Some sat according to hierarchy, while others sat with their friends. Occasionally, there were waiters and waitresses holding plates with all kinds of melons and fruits. The scene was very crowded and lively. The attendees were speculating when the mysterious grimace person would arrive. Of course, they were also speculating if Shen Yinma would attend. When they were still happily discussing, there was a loud report from the outside. Spiritual Master Yuhang, Master Fengxing, and Spiritual Lord Yunlong, etc., have arrived. The 10 great masters actually came to attend the feast. The celestial beings were all excited because these 10 masters were outstanding, and they usually did not participate in these social activities. They never expected that 10 of them would all attend this time. As a result, all the celestial beings stood up and greeted them. After some greeting, the immortal servants led the 10 masters to sit down at the VIP table. It seemed that today's feast was going to be extravagant. When it was close to 5 p.m., the Emperor Immortal finally arrived and sat in a chiefly position. However, even though the Emperor had arrived, the mysterious grimace person was still nowhere to be seen. All the celestial beings were a little bit curious. Entering this hall would require each person to pass through 5 entrances. Once Gu Shijio arrived at the first entrance, the guard would report her arrival. From the first entrance to the hall, it would need to take about 15 minutes. Therefore, everyone would be ready for her grand arrival when she came. It was rumored that this mysterious grimace person would always arrive on time and would never break her promise. According to the current time, there was only one more minute to 5 p.m. However, there was no news from the first entrance yet. Chapter 2077. A lot of people looked to the Emperor Immortal to see whether he had news for them. The Emperor Immortal gently cleared his throat. Everyone, please be patient. Since that lady promised me that she would come, she will definitely come. Perhaps something delayed her schedule. It is normal to be slightly late sometimes. Someone could not help but laugh at this statement. Perhaps this grimace person doesn't dare to come. I agree. She will probably be surrounded here, so she is afraid of it. It seems that this grimace person is not that special, after all. She likes to pretend to be mysterious, but becomes timid at the crucial moment. Humph. Even if she is not timid, she is not on time. There were many different opinions, and their voices were getting louder. Ha! Suddenly, they heard a chuckle from the sky. The laughter was loud and clear. The sound seemed to come from quite a distance away, but in a split second, everyone saw a blurry image in front of them, and there was a person in the middle of the hall. This person donned a bright red dress and had long black hair. The dress was not skin-tight, but looked elegant. When it fluttered along with the wind, it faintly outlined her graceful body figure. She did not tie her long hair into a bundle on her head, but just merely tied it into a ponytail with a jade hairband. She put a fox-shaped pin at the corner of her hair, too. The fox was vivid, especially its pair of eyes that appeared to move along with her actions. The body figure of this woman was perfect, while the red dress was very eye-catching. When she stood in the middle of the hall, it felt like there was a lively object being drawn in a black and white portrait. It made the crowd fix their eyes on her. The hall was very noisy and lively at first, but now it was hushed. Everyone was trying to identify this woman. After all, the Saha world was a cultivating fairyland. Everyone's dressing style was elegant and simple. In fact, most of the time, the celestial beings looked plain and simple. Therefore, most of the clothes worn by the people present were cloud white or light blue. Of course, women like to be beautiful. Hence, especially on such occasions, they would try to be unique by donning some accessories. When they walked, it could produce some sounds that caught attention. Although the standard of the guests invited was mighty immortals and above, there were very few women who fit that category. There were only 5 or 6 female mighty immortals, and they had been practicing for more than 5,000 years. To throw a grand feast, the Emperor Immortal knew that he would need to invite more women. Therefore, the requirement of female guests was lower. As long as they reached the level of a golden immortal, they could attend this fairy flower feast. Even then, there were only a few celestial beings who could attend. In total, there were only 16 of them present, and each looked unique. It usually attracted people's attention when there were female, celestial beings present for such events. During the feasts, some of the male celestial beings automatically approached the female celestial beings and often sent signals to them. Almost every female celestial beings were the focus of the audience, especially the 2 most beautiful female celestial beings present that night. Truth be told, they also enjoyed being the center of attention. However, when the red-dressed woman appeared, the focus of the audience was instantly transferred. The crowd simply could not ignore her presence. Chapter 2078. The male suitors had forgotten about their initial targets and now shifted their attention to this lady. One male celestial being was initially peeling peanuts for the most beautiful fairy. But after the appearance of the woman in red, he put the peanut shells in the hand of the female celestial being, and he ate the peanuts himself. This red-dressed woman's body was gorgeous, and her aura was also powerful. It seemed that she was at the level of a mighty immortal or above. The only thing that disappointed the crowd was the fact that she wore a mask on her face that only exposed her beautiful eyes. As she swept her eyes across the hall, it seemed like she could extract one's soul away from their body. Who was this woman? How could she appear out of nowhere? What skill did she possess? Many questions popped up. This woman actually arrived exactly on time. When she stood there, a drum went off to signal that it was precisely 5 p.m. The woman did not care about the surprised crowd. She walked toward the Emperor Immortal and bowed. "Your Majesty, I think I'm not late to the feast, right?" The Emperor Immortal stood up and smiled. "Of course, mighty Immortal Goo. You have come at the right time. Please take your seat." He then looked around at the crowd that was still stunned. In fact, he felt satisfied with their response. When Gu Shijio appeared in his study and negotiated with him, she also dressed this way. At that moment, the Emperor was also stunned by her beauty. Of course, he would never admit that he found her attractive. He would only say that he was surprised someone could enter into his premises. He introduced Gu Shijio to everyone. "Everyone, this lady is Gu Shijio, also known as Mighty Immortal Gu. Please get to know her." The brains of the celestial beings present finally started working again. Was this the mysterious, grimace person? It cannot be, right? Before this revelation, the hearts of the celestial beings felt like a hammer was beating them. However, it now felt as if their brains were struck by lightning. The hall was so quiet that one could even hear if a needle fell on the ground. Everyone stared at Gu Shijio, and they had only one thought in their minds. They wanted her to take off the mask on her face. Also, her voice was very pleasant. The best-looking female celestial being was rather unhappy with this turn of events. The male celestial being next to her had not woken up from his daze yet, and he was still putting peanut shells in her slender hand. She tried very hard not to throw the peanut shell at the male celestial being's face. She elegantly put the shell on a plate, then looked at Gu Shijio and smiled. "So, you're the famous mysterious grimace person. Now when we see you, you look exactly like what we have heard. However, on such an occasion, it is appropriate for you to wear a mask to meet us, right?" Although the celestial beings in the Saha world could be immortal once they practiced to the level of a mighty immortal, their appearance would change slightly with the passage of time. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.